Welcome, everybody. We have with us our alumni, some of our alumni from the first WiFly Nomads program. I'm just going to give a really quick background about myself and about WiFly Nomads so that everyone is familiar with what WiFly Nomads is all about. So about 3 years ago, I started working remotely and traveling the world. I started doing online marketing, and that's how I got into this lifestyle. I used to work in corporate and advertising agency as a project manager, and then I made the transition to online marketing. I had joined Remote Year, the very first Remote Year program. They take a group of 75 digital nomads to a new country every month for a year. So I was on that program for a year. And during that program, I was working full-time doing online marketing. And I also started my blog, The Remote Nomad, at the same time. And then the blog got picked up in press. It was in BBC and Fast Company and CNN and a bunch of other publications. And then as I was finishing up Remote Year, so many people were reaching out to me and they wanted to do the same sort of thing, but they didn't have a remote job. And everyone was asking me, how do I get into this? How do I find a remote job? And that's when I decided to launch WiFly Nomads, which is an immersive experience that helps you make the transition from the 9 to 5 to working online. So what we do is we bring together a group of ambitious, like-minded people. We bring them together, immerse in the lifestyle for 2 weeks in Bali. You learn how to earn an income remotely. So that's everything from building a personal brand or business, freelancing, landing a remote job. And when participants come, you don't have to know which route you want to go or which avenue. We help you figure that out. And then also focusing on the mindset and the lifestyle and really guiding you step by step through the whole process. So it's not just to come there and get all excited. Of course, it's exciting, but it's really about taking action and making it a reality. So we walk you step by step through the process. So you have the knowledge, you have the community, and the confidence, I think most importantly, to pursue this lifestyle once you leave WiFly Nomads. And then after the 2 weeks in Bali, it's followed by weekly coaching calls to make sure you stay accountable, you're on track, you're still moving forward with everything. Last year, we had 300 people apply from, I believe, 40 different countries. And we invited 8 to join us in Bali. And with us today are 4 of our alumni that were on our very first program last year in September. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass it over to our alumni to give a little background of who they are. So if you guys just want to say, I'll just pick you guys one at a time, and you can just let everyone know your name, a little bit of your background, and then I guess a little bit of your background and why you joined WiFly Nomads, and then we'll dive into the questions. So Sarah, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kate.
I'm just going to say really quick, just a super quick intro. We have Sarah, who's from the United States in Bali right now. We have Akina, who is from Guam. We have Sohail, who's from the United States. And then we have Rami, who is from Canada. So go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. So my name is Sarah. My background is in digital marketing. So I worked corporate jobs for about 6 years doing marketing in the States, mostly in Virginia, for just a variety of companies. And I was really just unfulfilled with my jobs and was really trying to figure out how I could work for myself and create an income and be able to travel and work remotely at the same time. So I joined WiFly. It was kind of, the timing was super right for me. I had just left a job, a corporate marketing job, and came out to Bali. And I kind of already had an idea that I had some skills that I could use to start freelancing. And I think going to WiFly really helped solidify like what I could offer clients and how just to set myself up to be successful. So yeah, I did WiFly last September, and then 6 months later-ish in May, I actually moved out to Bali. Me and Akina came out to Bali together, and we've been living here ever since. And I've been working remotely. I have a few clients now. Just working on also building a personal brand and things like that. So yeah, it was like one of the best decisions I ever made to come out to Bali. I love it here. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. Sohail, do you want to go? You are muted.
Sorry, guys. Let's try that again. So, Hale. So similar to Sarah, my background is also sort of in the corporate world. So I actually went to school for aerospace engineering, and I kind of thought at the time that would be my track, and I would sort of go on and, you know, build rocket ships and the sorts. And then plot twist, you know, I actually ended up going into the IT space, so software development. So for the past 6 years, I've been working as a project manager, leading software development teams, again, in a corporate environment for various companies. And it was interesting because, again, as I mentioned, when I was in college, I sort of had this idea in my mind that I would go on to corporate America. I would, you know, climb the ladder, make more money as I went along. But I think the biggest assumption that I made at that time was that I would be fulfilled with the work that I was doing. And so it really came as a shock to me 6 months into my first job, where I was like, hold on a second. Like, I don't want to do this for the next 30, 40 years. Like, this is not, this doesn't fulfill me. And one of the biggest things that I realized was that I had no freedom of time, right? So I was always on someone else's time for a majority of my week. You know, multiply that by months, by years, and, you know, the next thing you know, 20, 30, 40 years have passed by. So I basically got to a point I knew that I needed to change. And that's when I came across WiFly Nomads. I went to Bali and honestly just had a fantastic time. And so sort of fast forward to where I am now, I'm back in the States, working for a healthcare IT company that is not remote right now. So I'm still working in a corporate job. But I think really what WiFly did for me was tap me into a network just of amazing friends and people, you know, as you'll see today on the panel, who are already living that digital nomad lifestyle. So for me, like, I have resources that I can go to that at the point that, you know, my life sort of gets to a place where I can make that jump, I have people who I can reach out to, who I can work with, and who will, you know, be there as friends to help me make that transition. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Thanks. And then as we go through as well, once we start going through the questions, feel free, like, it doesn't have to be super rigid, because I know sometimes when some of you speak, it like sparks an idea from someone else. So feel free for you guys to jump in as we're going through this. Akina, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Sorry about the music, guys. I asked them to lower it, but yeah. So I'm Akina. Nice to meet you guys. So my background is I graduated from the University of San Francisco with a degree in journalism, and I spent 4 years there, an additional year working, and then I moved back to Guam in 2013 to help out with some family things. So when I returned, I took a vacation to Bali, and I got lost in Bali. And I came across this villa, and I just saw a guy with a beer on his laptop in front of the ocean just working. So I asked the owner, I was like, oh, what does he do? He's like, oh, he's a remote worker. And I was like, okay, that's super interesting. That's the ideal job. I kind of forgot about that. Fast forward 5 years. I never worked corporate, but I was also juggling 2-3 jobs at a time. I was helping with my family business. I was a waitress. I was flexible with my schedule with my family business. I was trying to pick up freelancing jobs on the side. I was just drained, like 12-hour, 14-hour days. It was just draining. So I came across WiFly, and I was like, I need to change something. I need to build something. And I took the jump, and I applied, and I met these incredible people, accountability partners from like all over the world, and just this amazing support system that I needed in that time in my life. And it's propelled me, and it helped me make the jump to move here to Bali. And since then, it's been a learning adventure. I'm learning more about myself, learning more about different types of people from all over the world, what I really want in my career. And I don't think I would have been able to do that without taking that first jump, which was with WiFly. So it's a little bit about my story.
Awesome. Thanks, Akina. Rami, your turn.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. My name is Rami, and my story is fairly similar to what everyone has spoken about already. So I studied engineering in school, worked in that for about 2 years. I really didn't like it. So I switched to web development. And I worked in that for about 7 years. And what I realized is the thing that I don't like is not necessarily the job, it's the structure of the corporate world, the corporate environment, the 9 to 5, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to work for myself, define my own hours, do my own thing, build something from scratch. And I was at my web development job for, um, 7 years, and I I didn't plan on staying there for that long. I planned on staying there for 6 months, 12 months, but then it just kept dragging on and on. And it's hard to leave that security blanket of the steady paycheck, the pension, the benefits, all those things. It's very tough. But at the end of the day, I knew I wasn't fulfilled. I just wasn't happy. So what actually happened to me is I went through a breakup around that right before WiFly Nomads happened. And that's what really pushed me. I was on the edge. I just needed that push off the edge. And that really helped me because it's in your times of desperation when you really force yourself to change. And I knew that's what I needed. And so I made the plunge and I went to WiFly Nomads, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. Number one, I met these amazing people. Still friends to this day. We still speak on a frequent basis. And it's just awesome. So my dream's always been to live in Canada during the summer because I love Canada. It's awesome in the summer. It's actually hot, but I hate the winters. So this year was the first year where I lived in San Diego for the winter, and now I'm back in Canada for the summer. So that dream has been achieved, and it's less than a year since I made that plunge to joining WiFly Nomads.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing your stories. For everyone jumping on, feel free to, as we're going through, put your questions in the chat. I have questions here already for the group, and I'll start going through those. But as questions come up, feel free to enter them in, and I'll make sure we try to get through everything today. So we'll dive right into the questions. You guys can feel free to just talk as needed. And again, it doesn't have to be so rigid. If it makes you think of something that you want to share, by all means, it can be more of a discussion, so it's not so rigid. Okay, so I'm going to go through these in no particular order. One of the first ones being, what was your biggest takeaway from the program?
I can go. So I think, and I kind of spoke a lot about this when I got there, but up until actually like landing in Bali, this concept of like being a digital nomad, like, was just kind of very foreign to me. And I was like, okay, yeah, like whatever, like nice to have, like I'm going to Bali, I'll go learn something. If anything, it'll be a cool trip. But like, how many people actually travel the world and make money at the same time? And I remember I think like we were stopping by at the co-working space, like just getting a tour of it. And I think it might've been like that first or second day. And I saw like this entire place was just packed with people who were either in remote positions for other companies or working on their own businesses, living in Bali and making a profit. So like just seeing it in person blew my mind. And that was like one of my biggest takeaways, that like, this is possible. This is real. Like, it's not some, it's not some fantasy that like, oh, you can travel and you can make money as well. Yeah, it's hard, and you'll have to make certain sacrifices. And even I'm very cognizant of the fact that like, when I do make that jump, like there are things that, that I'll have to give up. There are certain comforts that I'll have to give up to get to where I want to be and to eventually have everything that I want to have. But I think my biggest takeaway was that it is very possible because I saw other people living that dream.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Oh, sorry, good. Yeah, I was going to say.
No, go. I'm going to come back to you on something that you mentioned. It reminded me of something when you were applying for the program, just in terms of your mindset and where you were at. But Sarah, go ahead. We'll hop back to it after.
Yeah, I was gonna, plus one to what Sohail just said. I think something that I didn't realize is we're just not even exposed to that kind of lifestyle, like living where we were living. Like I was living in the States in Virginia and just working a job, and like people didn't really have that as a goal to work remotely. So like coming to Bali and seeing that there's just this huge community of people who are doing it, like even just bigger than WiFly, like just so many people that are actually like achieving it and doing it, was like really eye-opening for me. Cause I thought maybe just like, it still seems like such a niche thing to work remotely. But there's so many more people doing it than like I had even imagined. So that was really inspiring.
Cool.
Yeah. For me, I think, and some people might not like hearing this, but I went in, so my mindset was this. I had been in a 9 to 5 for almost a decade. I just quit my job. I had no more security blanket. I wasn't making any money at the time. And so I had just quit my job probably 3 weeks prior to WiFly Nomads, and I wasn't making any money. So I went in with a big sense of urgency. And I remember feeling a little frustrated because I thought, they were going to tell me, okay, do steps A, B, C, and you'll be successful. So what I realized is there is no such thing when you're an entrepreneur starting your own business. There are no steps to doing it. Every single business is different. Like my business is web design. There's millions of web design businesses and they've all gone about it different ways. So what may have worked for them might not work for me. So what I would say is you have to find what works for you. And the only way to do that is by trying. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that it's really about like taking like on WiFly, you get all this information, but then it's okay, how do I apply this to me, and really kind of taking what you need, because some things you may know, you may not know, and then applying that to your situation. And it's a lot of A/B testing, especially when you're doing the freelancing and launching a business. So like having that foundation, but then you have to go through and do the whole testing and optimize to find that flow that works for you.
Yeah, sure. Kind of going off on what Raman was saying, that, and I think a sense of community and confidence is my takeaway. It's something that I jumped into and something that I knew I want for myself, and it's like ownership to that. And I remember my confidence level was just so low at that point because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And to be honest, Sohail and I got paired up for a lot of other Q&As and group calls and stuff like that. So we were always partnered up, and I felt so intimidated at first because I felt like Sohail just had it all. Like he knew what he wanted to do. He knew where he was going. He knew his future. Like, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to Bali for 2 weeks. But then I got to know Sohail, and we went to a cafe adventure. We sat down. He goes, okay, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And it made me feel relief. At the same time, everyone in this program, we're at the same point in terms of we have an idea, but where do we go from here? And just spending 2 weeks with these amazing people, you just get to bounce ideas here and there whenever you want. You go on these adventures, you go surfing, you go scooter riding, you go sightseeing, you learn more about them, and then you learn a little bit more about yourself and what you want. So I think for me, it's building that community and these lifelong friendships.
Awesome. And Sohail, going back to when you started as well, I remember when you were applying to WiFly, you were a bit hesitant to join. And you talked about this idea of, okay, that sounds great, but how realistic is that? And I remember for many of you, when we walked in the co-working space, I could just see this like switch flip in your, like, you could just see it in your face, just like, whoa, like there are these many people doing this thing. It was like really cool to see. So Sohail, I'm curious because I remember you more specifically, you were kind of like hesitant, like, okay, this sounds cool, but like, I'm not really sure about this. So maybe you can speak to that, because I think a lot of people are a bit hesitant because it's a big lifestyle change, right? And it's a big commitment. So maybe you can speak to that a bit more, and how you made your decision, because you were a bit hesitant. And then ultimately, you came through, you joined the program, and here you are today.
Yeah. Quite honestly, I think so yes, I was very hesitant. And for people online, like I picked like Kate's brain apart when it came to like this course, like multiple phone calls, like question after question. And, she was always great about, like putting my mind at ease and answering everything, you know, in depth. Really, one specific evening comes to mind. I was in my living room. I looked at my dad and I was like, look, Dad, you know, I've been juggling, you know, should I do this? Should I not do this? You know, it's a big financial commitment for me. It's a lot of, you know, it's a big time commitment. Cause again, like I'm in a corporate job, you know, and for some of you who may be on the line, if you are in a corporate position, you know that like we only get like 3 to 4, you know, and if you're lucky, 5 weeks off in the entire year. And I remember my dad just looked at me and he said, so yeah, look, if you're never willing to take a risk in your life, then you'll never have what you want. And that was it. That was literally it. Like all the, you know, back and forth in my mind at that point, I was like, done, I'm going. Because I realized that, okay, say I don't go, right? 6 months from this point, a year from this point, I'll always wonder, what if? What if I had gone? Who would I have met? What could I have done for me? Right? And I am so incredibly grateful that I did go, because again, I saw the possibility, whereas had I stayed at home, I would not have seen the possibility. And I would still be stuck in that mindset of, oh, it's just a fantasy. And these people aren't really working. Oh, and you know, maybe someone's giving them money that allows them to travel, but I got to see people who made real life sacrifices to be in that position. So yeah, it was really just like, you know, my dad telling me, you know, like, dude, if you never take a risk, like you'll never you know, get what you want out of this life.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so kind of in line with that, there's 2 questions here. They're kind of similar, so I might just ask them both at the same time and then can kind of go from there. If you quit your job before joining WiFly, this is an interesting question because people even ask me this all the time. They want to know if you guys had already like quit your job, if you kept your job. People are always curious about that and ask me that a lot. So did you quit your job before WiFly? And then how did you overcome that fear of making the jump to becoming a digital nomad? And I think this is an interesting one too, because so many people have a fear around, it's like a lifestyle change, right? You're doing something completely different. A lot of people aren't familiar with this lifestyle, and there's a lot of fear associated with that. I see people make excuses all the time. So maybe you guys can talk about, so just to recap, if you quit your job before WiFly and how you overcame that fear to making the leap. You guys can just dive in as you're ready.
Sure. So I know myself and Sarah both quit our jobs before we joined WiFly. For me, reflecting back on it, the reason I didn't quit earlier was because of fear, 100% because of fear. I was scared. How am I gonna make money? How am I gonna find work? All these kind of things that I'm sure the questions that you might have as well. So for me, WiFly was perfect because it was kind of like a crutch at the time that I needed it the most. So we always had Kate there to guide us and be kind of a mentor and just give us advice before, during, and after the program, even up until this day. If we have questions, she's happy to answer. And also all the people we met on the program were integral to me feeling more comfortable doing this. So I remember I had, like I said before, I had a sense of urgency joining the program. And my fears kind of got alleviated because I met all these people and they supported me throughout the journey because we were on the journey together. So we helped each other. We had questions. We'd, shoot things back and forth between each other. So that really helped me transition from, corporate job for a decade to, remote worker. So after the program, I moved to San Diego, never been there before in my life, didn't know anyone there. And for some reason, just the program gave me the confidence to know that, okay, like I had no income coming in at the time and I was paying rent, and San Diego is a very expensive place to live. But I just knew it would work out because I had these people helping me and I had, all the knowledge that I gained on WiFly.
I'm just going to jump in there and say we actually all met up in California. All of us actually. You and Sarah were already there. And then, you and Sarah were there. And then Sohail and I were flying in. And then, we all met up, which was really cool. and then we'll have another reunion soon that I will share with everyone later. Thanks, Remy. Thanks for sharing that. Does anyone else want to jump in if you quit your job and how you overcame that fear to making the transition to becoming a digital nomad?
Yeah, I can add to that because I had been planning on quitting my job for a really long time, and I just kept putting it off. My mindset was kind of that, why would I quit a job when I don't have anything else lined up? That seemed really dumb. Actually, I didn't really think it was dumb. It was more just like the pressure of everyone around me being like, why would you quit a job? You're so lucky, you're so ungrateful, like that you don't like your job, things like that. People who just didn't really understand what I was trying to accomplish. So I actually ended up not really having to make the decision because my company downsized my department. So I was kind of like forced to make that decision in a way, which turned out to be a blessing. But what I realized is that like it doesn't work in a straight line like that. Like you can't plan like, okay, I'm going to have something in place, then I'm going to quit my job, then I'm going to be ready to like take the leap. It was like the job itself was taking up so much space in my life. Sorry, that's a cat. Was taking up so much space in my life. And it's like, once that was gone, I had so much more like mind space to really focus on what I wanted to do. And it really wasn't until like I left my job and I just made a bunch of space in my life that I started being able to actually do the things I wanted to do and like getting clients and things like that.
Awesome.
Kate, sorry, Kina, were you going to go? You're muted.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to hop in. Actually, so question for Sarah and Rami. So I know like, a lot of people, there is this fear, right, of leaving their job. Did you guys ever, like for the audience, did you guys ever do like a sort of like so like there's like taking risks, right? And then I've also heard like a lot of people talk about like taking calculated risks. So like when you decided to leave your jobs, did you ever kind of like go through like what a worst case scenario would look like for you? And if that worst case scenario became true, if you'd still be in an okay spot? Like did that ever like, did you ever like sort of go through that analysis in your mind? Or did you just say like, hey,
for me, I just jumped in. It made no logical sense, but it was just a gut feeling that I had to follow through with. And it took me years to follow through with it. I've had that feeling for a long, long time. But I was lucky because I had been working for, 10 years or so, and I had some money saved up. So I wasn't starting, from zero, but to answer your question, no.
Yeah, I would say no also. I actually had pretty much no money saved up. So it really created that sense of urgency and like lit that fire where it was like, okay. And also, I mean, I think we can all relate to like being kind of privileged in the sense that like worst case scenario for me is like living back at home with my parents. It's not like I was ever going to be in a position where I was going to be homeless or where things would really get that bad. I mean, it's just like in my mind, I was like, yeah, I don't want that to happen under any circumstances. But like there was always that cushion there, which was nice to know. But it was also nice to know that like I don't want to let that happen. I don't want to resort back to that. So that was also a really big driving factor.
Gotcha.
And I think like the fact of not having anything saved or not really having like an income buffer made me work harder, if anything.
I'm just going to throw something out there. When I started to become a digital nomad, I did the same thing. I just followed my gut, put my savings down, and I had 4 weeks to find a job. And I was like, all right, sense of urgency. And it panned out, which thankfully. But yeah, similar to you guys, like just kind of following that gut feeling. Akina, you were going to say something, yeah?
Oh yeah, mine's a little bit different. I guess when you work for your mom, you can never quit your job. So, but I think what made me take this jump actually was I was standing there, I was looking at my cafe and I just saw my mom and she was just so happy. And for everyone who doesn't know, my mom's full Japanese. And when she met my dad, she spoke no English and she practically raised me in California like a toddler by herself because my dad was a pilot and he was always flying and was never home for longer than 2 weeks, and then he'll be gone for 2 months. And then she was running this cafe on Guam by herself. And I was like, okay, she took that jump. She took that leap of faith and she did something for herself. And I was like, okay, I could do that. But more importantly, I want to be able to support her and have her continue to live this dream without having to worry about finances and labor costs and food costs and all these things. But that's what made me realize, like, I need to start taking action and I need to start taking control of my situation rather have the situations in my life control me. In a sense.
I think that's a really interesting point, is that so many people fall like victim to life, like, oh, I'm the victim, it's the economy, it's this and that, and they make all these excuses not to pursue this lifestyle. But it's really about, like you say, control, but it's almost like responsibility, right? Like taking that responsibility, taking that control, taking that hold and saying, okay, here's how I'm going to navigate my life, instead of letting life just happen to you, getting intentional with it and making it happen. Cool. Do you want to add anything, Sohail? No? Okay, cool. So I'll jump to the next one. Let's see. Okay, some random ones. Did you feel safe in Bali? Well,
yeah, I guess I'll answer that since I live here now. Yeah, I felt safe. I mean, of course, it's like anywhere, like shit happens. You just have to like be cautious. And obviously you're in another country. Like if you don't speak the language, like there's certain precautions you have to take just to like protect yourself. But I've never felt unsafe being here. Honestly, they're like the kindest, like most welcoming people. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely to jump on what Sarah said, especially if you're a female and you're traveling and you're scootering late at night. It's amazing how much you do feel safe because the locals, they'll rush and help you. I got in a scooter accident and then they all just came rushing to me like, are you okay? Like, did you need water? Did you need bandages? Did you need me to take you to the hospital? And that's my instinct felt like, okay, I could do this. Like, I feel safe here. These are people who become family and they're so hospitable here. It's amazing.
Family, Sohail, did you guys want to add anything?
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, like if you're coming on the trip, right, don't do something stupid. Like don't go off by yourself in the middle of the night, right? Like when we were all there this past September, like anytime that we wanted to do anything, for the most part, like we kind of like stuck as a group, or like we'd always take one other person with us. But that being said, like what Akina and Sarah said, like the people in Bali are like some of the nicest people that I've ever met. So yeah, I never felt that like I was in a bad neighborhood or in danger like that. Yeah, it just didn't occur to me. But again, as with any travel in a new country, just be smart.
Actually, this reminds me of two things. First of all, Rami, I remember you said you didn't even really care to go to Bali, and Sohail, that was your first time in Asia as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
Rami, do you want to expand on yours first?
Yeah, I didn't like Bali wasn't at the top of my go-to places, but I loved it. I think it's probably one of the nicest places I've ever been, and I think the people there throughout my travels are probably some of the nicest people I've ever seen in general. I think it has to do with their religion mainly and their upbringing, but very kind people over there.
And Sohail, I remember sometimes when we were in Bali, your face was just like, whoa, like just random things that were like happening and going on. What were some of those things that were like new to you that you saw?
That were new to me. Well, there's one thing that comes to mind. So every morning you're going to see these things all over the place. They're like these little square things on the ground.
Oh, yeah,
like flowers or like just like a random assortment of things. Like, guys, I don't even know how to explain it. Look it up online. But it's like their offering, I think, to like their gods. So I was so confused because I saw these things like all over the place. So if you're coming on the trip, do not step on them. Like bad karma. But yeah, I think that was pretty odd. Aside from that, I don't know, guys. I had the best cheeseburger I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh,
not expecting that. Yo.
I found all the burgers in Bali.
I literally traveled halfway across the world, and I think I had like a hamburger like every day, if not every other day, instead of having like the local food. So I don't know.
That's
YOLO.
The food scene in Bali is unbelievable, honestly. It's like,
yeah.
that was probably the thing I did not expect, or like I expected the least, was just to like have all this amazing food. But like even living here, it's like you could go to a new cafe every single day and never run out of places to go.
Yeah, and they keep getting more and more restaurants. I think, sorry, we have someone here that may have a question coming through. On Zoom, you like raise your hand. So
yeah, she asked if there are snakes, if Sohail was talking about snakes, but no, he was talking about these little squares that are like flower arrangements. Not snakes.
Yeah, it's like these like bamboo little things, and then they just put flowers and these like incense, but it's usually at the end of every like driveway, at the entrance of every store, so it's easy to like accidentally walk on them, so you just are cautious of that.
Oh, and be careful of the monkeys, guys. The monkeys.
Yeah.
Don't mess with them.
Yeah. They're more, so just so everyone knows, so we do 2 weeks, one in Ubud, one in Canggu. So Ubud's more rice terrace, that's where the monkeys are, more yoga type scene, very calm. And then you go to Canggu and it's more lively. It's this popular surf town. It's a different vibe. I think you guys said that you really liked seeing that contrast, like getting to a new place. It was kind of calm at first, and then you got into the hype of the surf town after. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one. This one I think is pretty obvious, and you guys have kind of talked about this already, but if you still keep in touch with people from the program. Who wants to answer that one?
All the time. These people know way too much about me. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, and I honestly, like, I wasn't expecting this, but like, I went and like these people became family to me. And I really was not like, I don't think saying like I wasn't prepared for that, like that's not the right way to put it. But again, it was just like a pleasant surprise. And Sarah and I actually live, like our like parents' like homes are like 1 hour from each other. So like it was crazy, like even that, just like how close we were. And we actually had the same flight to Bali. So like we met up at the airport beforehand. But yeah, like these people have, like I said, become family to me. You know, if I ever need anything, I have like, you know, all of them to go to. And if they ever need anything, like I'm always here, you know, so absolutely we keep in touch.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to mention, just because one of the reasons in creating the small group is to create that tight-knit close community where everyone actually gets a chance to know each other. And I think it's amazing. I mean, one thing that's essentially out of my control, like I get to pick everyone and I do my best in doing that. And obviously I picked a great bunch because you guys are still supporting each other to this day. I remember somebody asking me, I was talking to my aunt about the program, and she's like, oh, so have you like checked in on them? And I was like, what do you mean? Like I talk to them all the time. It's not just like we disappear afterwards. I think it's a very, I love that the group is very close and that we chat often and that everyone is always in touch, which I think is really, really awesome and really special with a group. I don't know if you guys want to share anything else on that. No? Cool. Okay. Another question here. How tech savvy do you have to be to make this lifestyle work? Do you need a background in IT?
It depends. So it's like asking how tech savvy do you have to be to get a job? There are tons of different jobs you can get. Like Sarah does most of her work doing copywriting, I believe. Akina is also a great writer. So like I do web design, which is obviously, you know, tech related, but that's just my path. There's a million different ways you can go. Number one, you can start a business. You can be an entrepreneur. Number two, you can find a remote job. There are remote jobs popping up everywhere these days in all sorts of fields. So so the short answer is no, you don't have to be super tech savvy. It just depends what your passion is, what you want to pursue going forward with this lifestyle?
Yeah, I'll add that I think the learning curve is lesser if you do know things about tech. For example, like if you want to set up your own website, or if you like are trying to market yourself, things like that, like knowing those things and having those skills makes it easier to just like transition and to find work and things like that. But if you don't have those skills, there's people you can ask to help. And it's like, especially going through WiFly, I think one thing that was really great is that we all have different skill sets. So we were all able to kind of like leverage each other's knowledge to work together on like helping each other wherever we needed.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say some of the job opportunities come when you least expect it, especially if you're working in a co-working space and you just collaborate with other people. One of my, I guess, jobs or gigs here was as a Japanese translator, and I would never have expected that. It was just because I was talking to a guy at Dojo. We ended up talking for a couple of hours, and he was just like, "Hey, do you have experience translating?" So yeah, you never know what's really around the corner, actually.
Amazing. Rami, when you were talking, it sort of reminded me of something. I think there's an interesting point, like you were saying, that it's just like in traditional jobs, in the sense, there's so many types of jobs, so many industries, and it's very similar to remote, where it's just like there's so many industries, there's so many different types of jobs. Something that it just kind of reminded me when you're speaking to all that, on the program, we talk about becoming a remote employee, becoming an entrepreneur. When you guys joined the program, did you know what route you wanted to take? Did that vision change when you were on the program? Like, can you speak to that a bit? Because I think some of you were thinking, oh, I'll become a remote employee, and then shifted to entrepreneur, and vice versa. You can speak to that a bit.
I can speak to that. I think my initial hope was that I just wanted to get a remote job. I was pretty much just like, I just need to make money as fast as possible because I'd lost my job. So I was just thinking like, I'm just going to apply for jobs. But the longer I've been like doing this now, I'm like way more focused on building my own business and like my own brand, and less trying to like find a remote job, just because for me personally, it's like having a remote job, sure, you still get that flexibility, but you're still working for someone else. You're still not fully in control of your days and of your life, kind of. So yeah, I think I had never considered entrepreneurship just because it was just like never really seemed that realistic for me. I was never really like interested in the idea of having my own business until I started meeting all these other people who were making it happen, and just like seeing that it was possible, and like kind of what Akina talked about with confidence. I think like joining WiFly really made me more confident in my skills and like my abilities to actually be able to have my own business and not just have to find a remote job to be able to live this life.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Yeah, so for me, I already knew that I wanted to start my own job or be a solopreneur, and that didn't change throughout the program.
Cool. Okay, so we're at about 8:45, so I'm going to try to get through maybe a couple more questions, and then we can wrap up. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just trying to decide which ones to pick here. Okay, I'm going to try to bunch these together because they're kind of similar. So one is, couldn't you just figure this out like watching YouTube videos and blogs, which kind of relates to, well, I guess it's kind of different. I guess that's the first one. Yeah, maybe you guys can speak to that.
Yeah, so I had, so a lot of my hesitation actually, as we kind of touched upon earlier in the program today, was like, just like what this question is, right? Like, okay, well, can I just teach this to myself and just do it at home? And I think one thing that I've really had to like that, or one thing that I have realized over time And I'm still realizing, and it's sort of like, it goes back to like growth mindset as well, is that in order to get to where you want to be, I think the fastest way to do that is to go learn from people who are already doing what you want, right? So for example, if you've made $1 million in your company and you want to make 10 million, go learn from the person who's made 10 million, if not more. If you want to, become a digital nomad, go learn from somebody who's become a digital nomad, who's already lived that lifestyle and who's been through all of those steps. And so, yeah, like the short answer is, yeah, you probably can't learn it on your own, but the time that it might take you could potentially be a lot longer, just because, you won't be learning from somebody who's already done all the trial and error and sort of has more of that expedited, route to get to where you want to be.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Yeah, and I also think the number one thing, the number one positive for me was the connections that I made, all the friendships I made. I made some connections in Bali to this day that I still speak with, and I'm actually working with a startup in Bali right now. So it's not only the material of the course, it's actually being there, having that experience, getting that motivation. So the motivation is one of the hardest things to find for me sometimes, like when I'm back home, staying motivated. But when you're in Bali, it's so easy to stay motivated. And it's so like you wake up, it's sunny, there's a beach, there's, there are monkeys running around. It's just so cool. Plus you get to be in a city where there are an enormous amount of remote workers. And so you never know what connections you might make and friendships, especially, which, hopefully will be lifelong friends now. So, having 8 new lifelong friends is invaluable.
Do you ladies want to add anything?
I'll say.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say, I mean, it's kind of just what the guys already said. Like, yeah, sure, you can learn all this stuff online. Like, it's honestly not like anything new or groundbreaking. Like, the information is all out there. It's really just like being immersed in that lifestyle. So like for me, coming from a background in marketing, like I already had the tools to make it happen, but it was more just like, how do I implement what I know? And it was also just a big mindset exercise of like, yeah, everyone, like all these people are doing this and I can do this too. And just seeing it firsthand was honestly way more valuable than I would have gotten from any online course.
Cool. Akina, did you want to go?
Yeah, did you want to add?
You're good? Okay, cool. Okay, I'm
gonna add one thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And like, aside from just like the content that you're receiving, like also think of it in terms of like the people that you're getting plugged in, right? Like that you're getting plugged into, right? So had I not gone, I wouldn't know any of these people right now, right? So literally, like I have 2 good friends, Akina and Sarah, who are in Bali, right? So if tomorrow I want to transition to Bali, like I have both of them that I can hit up and be like, guys, what do I need to do, right? Like when I get there, like, I know that I have their support. I have Rami, who's, been to San Diego and is now in Canada and has already started, building out his own business. So if I want to do something like, I can just reach out to him. Like Kate, has already been living this lifestyle for a while. So again, like, even though like, for like me, like I'm still trying to figure out like, okay, exactly like, what do I want to do? Like the network that I got plugged into is invaluable. So, also think of it like, yeah, there's the content and like, yeah, you can figure that out, but like, you're not going to get those connections sitting behind your computer screen at your cubicle. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because when you're in person and you're connecting and it's in those little moments that you're like building those relationships, you can definitely build relationships online and whatnot, but it's almost like this whole different level of like a deeper connection of like, okay, I've got your back no matter like where you are, if you need something, sort of like that sentiment with the group. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just gonna ask 2 more questions here. We have one, Wardry's asking, my goal is to take my cosmetics brand global. How can this group assist in helping me to move this goal forward? So I'm trying to, I guess, to best apply this to you guys, I guess knowing that somebody has this brand, I guess entrepreneurship route, how would WiFly be valuable to somebody like that? And I guess community, the community and the program itself. I know it's kind of a specific question, but
yeah, I would say that it's actually, I think it's great that you have like a goal and like a focus in mind, because I know a lot of us going into it kind of, we're still trying to figure it out. And you're going to get a lot of one-on-one time with Kate and with other mentors and speakers that are going to be there. So like having that specific mission of like, I just want to take my brand global, you'll get so much more like direct feedback on that specific thing rather than like someone else who is still kind of just still trying to figure it out. So I think you'd get like a lot of direct feedback and really like honest knowledge that other people might not necessarily be able to give you.
That's a really good point, because when you're in a traditional environment, it's hard to get a group of people that want to talk about your business and give you actual feedback. But when you have like a community, like for us, it's like any of you guys could reach out to the group and someone will actually care enough to actually give you feedback.
And just to touch upon that, it's literally 2 weeks of just brainstorming and masterminding. And if you have a question, you could just automatically ask them on the beach, like, hey, I just got this really random idea. I'm thinking about this design. What do you think? And it's just having that community will also help you level up. Mindset level up, working with Kate and the speakers will help you level up in your business. So just physically being here and what WiFly could provide is just, you're going to level up after those 2 weeks, regardless.
Cool. Did anyone else want to add anything? You guys are good? Okay. And I think that's an interesting point too. And I'm not sure how much I speak to that, but the one-on-one time you get. So like with myself, with the guest speakers, you get that one-on-one time. So like last time we had Daniel DiPiazza from Rich 20, he took time, sat down with every single one of you, listened to your ideas, gave you feedback, real time, live, from somebody that is, you know, there's me that is obviously experienced in this lifestyle. Then you have somebody like Daniel, who is just an incredibly successful in business in all these different ways. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up with one final question, and then I'm just gonna share our next guest speaker for our next program, and who will be joining us. Okay, so let's go into the last one, and then I will wrap up for you guys. This kind of like ties in together, but along the lines of, would you do it again, and was it worth it?
Definitely. I would do it all over again. Same way. After coming to Bali, there's a lot of questioning going back and forth, but it always ties back to the jump that I had taken. And without that jump, I would not have been exposed to some of the trials I've overcome here. And I say overcome. And I think that's really important, because without that jump, I don't know.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Yeah, I definitely would. Having experienced what I did on the first go around, yeah, absolutely, hands down, right? I mean, the relationships can only grow, you know, from that initial point. And again, like, I think relationships are everything. You know, like, you know, you have something that you're really good at, right? So you have a skill set that you can take remote and make money off of. But again, it's like those relationships that are going to help you, you know, level up, that are going to help you, you know, take everything that you want to do one step further. So absolutely. Yeah. Not to mention, like, it's a lot of fun. You're not just in a classroom all day. Like you are having like there's so many excursions. It's a really good time.
Yeah, it's awesome. I definitely would do it again, if only for the relationships that I made and the connections that I made. And like Sohail said, it's a lot of fun. It was probably 2 of the most fun weeks of my life, as well as 2 of the most, how do you say, leveling up weeks of my life. So my mindset really leveled up. My my attitude, my everything, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely do it again. I think for me, it was like a moment of, I had never spent that much money on like myself before. I like at first I felt like it was kind of a really self-indulgent thing, but like it was, like they said, I mean, the relationships and just like being able to level up that fast was invaluable. And it actually like inspired me to like join other masterminds and spend more money on coaching and different things like that. And I think like when you're investing in yourself, especially if you're trying to start a business or trying to like completely change your lifestyle, it also holds you accountable. So it's like, yeah, we all made this investment, but it was a really, it was like, we don't want it to go to waste. So that also like puts you in the mindset of, I want to make the most out of this and I don't want to like let this opportunity pass me by. So yeah, I would definitely do it again. And obviously like now I live in Bali and I've never really would have considered Bali as like somewhere that I want to live unless I had come to WiFly. And like, honestly, I can't imagine like not having made this decision now and not even being here now.
Awesome. And the final, well, one more just popped in, but we can answer that one quick. So it says, who's still in Bali and for how long? So Sarah, Akina.
Yeah. So Sarah and I, we both decided to come end of April and May, or beginning of May. So I'm here for another week. It is wedding season, so I will be traveling back to California to attend some college friends' weddings, and I will be back in September.
Yeah, and I'm here. Yeah, I've been here for 3 months and I'll be here until the end of July. And then I'm going back to the States for a few weeks, but I already like booked my trip round trip. So I'm just going back home for like a couple weddings and then coming back to Bali end of August. And then my plan is to stay here for like a few more months and then to travel more of Asia, I think.
Amazing. Awesome. So on that note, actually, it really relates to the next thing we're going to talk about. So this year on WiFly Nomads, we have our guest speaker, which is really exciting, and I'm going to share who that is soon. But we also have our past alumni coming back to join this new group and essentially act a bit as mentors and just guiding the new, I guess, recruits in their journey. You guys have been there, you know what it's like, you know what the whole journey and process is like. So we have some of our alumni coming back. I know some of you are for sure confirmed coming in September. Some of you just have to see how things go. But we'll have you guys back and yeah, supporting the whole new group on their journey. There's no one better to support you guys than someone that's gone through the experience themselves. So that's really exciting. So a lot of the people on the call today will be back in Bali in September, joining us again. And then I'm finally excited to publicly share so everyone can just talk about it because we've talked about it between our WiFly group before. We are having, and our next guest speaker, he's interviewed really big names like Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, Arianna Huffington, Marie Forleo, Deepak Chopra. So like a ton of people. He started his business just from a laptop, create it into a 6-figure business. If at this point, I don't know, it might even be more than that right now. So we have Nathan Chan from Founder Magazine, who's going to be joining us for our next WiFly Nomads program. So every WiFly, we bring in a prominent guest speaker. The speaker comes, speaks with the group. Last time we had Daniel. That was a really great experience. You know, we learned from Daniel, then we just had this like mastermind lunch where we're all eating together, and it was just very chill and casual, like getting to know each other and getting to know Daniel while still like having these like business brainstorm sessions and just like learning from him and having the group together. So we'll do the same thing with Nathan. And again, with Nathan, he's going to be sitting with the participants one-on-one, which is absolutely incredible because when you have someone who's achieved so much success, like someone like Nathan and Daniel, to have that one-on-one personalized time with them is just invaluable. I'm sure many of you already know who he is. He's got over 1 million followers on Instagram. He has his online magazine, which is Founder Magazine. They've launched courses now. They have a podcast. So Nathan is definitely going to be very well versed in what it takes to start a business from nothing. Again, Nathan started his business just off of a laptop, didn't really know what he was doing. He figured it out as he went. So I'm super, super excited and super pumped to have him there. I'm super pumped to have you guys come back too. It's going to be so much fun. We'll have our past alumni, we'll have Nathan. So I just want to take a minute and thank you so much to all of our alumni for coming and answering these questions. I know I can do my best to share about the program, but I think you guys can best speak to the experience and how it's impacted you and what it's meant to you guys and sort of the path that you're on right now. So thank you guys so much for joining and sharing your stories. I think will be very valuable to everybody. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in. What I'll do is for those of you that have registered and streaming live in the Facebook group, I'll leave a link. If you guys have additional questions afterwards, I'll leave a link to a Google Doc and you can leave it in there and we can make sure that your questions get answered if you have questions after this. Oh, we're so good on timing, 9:01. This is like right on time. Perfect. Yeah, so thank you everyone. Guys, we can hop off now and I will be in touch with some of you after this call because I know I'm going to chat with some of you afterwards. But yeah, thank you so much guys. And thank you for everyone that tuned in to join and for everyone watching the recording too. I'm sure it'll be very valuable as well.
Thanks for having us, Kate.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks guys.
Bye guys.
Okay. See
Bye,
you later.
everyone.
Bye guys.
Bye.